Hello, beautiful woman in dentistry. Welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today is going to be a phenomenal day because you are not failing. You are just out of energy. What if I told you that willpower isn't about discipline, it's about energy? And what if I told you that every decision you're making during the day is slowly draining your ability to make the next one? And at the end of the day, it's no wonder that you're drained, that you're experiencing decision fatigue, that you reach for convenience instead of intentional self-care. But here's what I promise. There's a way out of the cycle. And today we're going to talk about how you can protect your decision-making power and start putting yourself first. First of all, I'm so excited to talk about this today because for decades, I struggled. I struggled because I kept making promises to myself to take better care of myself. And I think this is a really important concept to really bring to light. The shame that we experience as women dentists around not taking better care of ourselves. Guys, it's not that we don't know. It's not that we're not aware. We are fully aware that we are people-pleasing and overdoing and overcommitting and making life harder than it needs to be. We create New Year's resolutions every year, promising ourselves to take better care of ourselves. This year, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to say nicer things to myself. Everything I talk about on this podcast in terms of being kinder to yourself, I think so many of us are fully aware that we're not. We hear those things about you wouldn't treat your best friend or your daughter the way you treat yourself, or say the things you say to yourself to your patients. We know, we get it. So why is it that we keep hurting ourselves? And one of those components that I'm going to just give you so much peace around today is reminding you that your willpower is not attached to discipline. It is not attached to you not trying hard enough. It is not attached to you not caring deeply enough. It has got nothing to do with your values or your worth. It is simply math around energy and energy depletion. For years, I used to struggle with my weight, and I was so hard on myself, and I would berate myself and tell myself, Tarryn, this has got to stop. I'd get angry and I'd be, so frustrated when at the end of the day, after working so hard and, serving so many patients and, running a practice, making a million decisions all day long, and then coming home and doing the same thing for my children and my family, I would stand in front of the pantry and just eat whatever crap was easiest to grab. Or I'd be making a delicious dinner, and as I'm making the dinner, I'm eating cheese and crackers. I think the same thing I experienced, let's see, how many years ago now? I think it was 8 years. It's 8 years that I've been sober, but I had a challenge with alcohol because I was using alcohol as a means to regulate my nervous system, as stress relief, to come down from all the stress during the day. And it turned into an addictive pattern that I struggled with for a long time. And the same thing, I used to, starting in the morning, I would tell myself, don't do it tonight, don't have alcohol. And then what would happen at the end of the day? I invariably would kind of come to when I had half a glass of wine down my throat. And I'd be so disappointed in myself and berate myself and beat myself up that you did it again. You promised yourself you would go to the gym after work. You promised yourself you wouldn't drink wine tonight. You promised yourself you wouldn't eat that crap. You promised yourself you'd take better care of yourself. And honestly, the more I heard inspiration from some very well-intended sources of put yourself first, the more I would feel bad about it because I just couldn't seem to do it. It was really hard. It was really hard to shift years and decades of behavior pattern of putting other people first. And I didn't quite understand what that meant. And I made it mean something about me and my willpower. My willpower wasn't strong enough. And it's really interesting because that can be even more threatening to us as dentists who identify with, I can do things that are really difficult. I can outwork anyone in the room. But why is it I can't take better care of myself? And we watch our bodies kind of fail us. You know, many of us are experiencing autoimmune problems. Or for myself, I experienced decades of migraines. 19 migraines a month. Constantly stressed and pouring that cortisol, washing it over my body, for me turned into chronic migraines for 40 years of my life. And I kept telling myself that there was something wrong with me. What I've learned recently, and this is just within the past few years, is that we actually have a certain number of energy packets, a certain number of decision-making packets, if you will, in any one day and during the week. And we say during the work week because on the weekend, according to the study that was done by Roy Baumeister in 1998, according to the study, theoretically, you're restoring and repairing and resting over the weekend and then starting again with a certain limited number of energy packets. I'm going to call them energy packets. His verbiage in this article was ego depletion. But let's imagine them like energy packets that they're refueled in the weekend. And I have some theories around you, beautiful women in dentistry, that we actually can continue to deplete ourselves over the weekend. And that's why we never get that refueling. However, we'll get to that in a moment. But let's just go back to this concept that Roy Baumeister discovered or researched. And that is, during the day, you have a certain finite number of energy packets, decision packets. And as you go through the day, you're actually using them up. So no wonder you make great choices about breakfast, but at dinner time, you've depleted all those energy packets, and now you're just going and reaching for convenience, or you're reaching for the easiest or the most accessible, or emotionally supporting, kind of fueling and soothing your emotions and not doing it from a place of intention or intellectual understanding. Okay, let's break it down. What's really interesting is I learned this concept recently from a marketing conversation. And this is great information for all my dental business owners out there. They were using this information from Roy Baumeister's research to explain why there are certain hours in the day and days of the week that are best to sell complicated, big, high-risk packets or services to your clients. So I believe dentistry falls in there because dentistry is one of those things where whatever we're proposing in terms of a treatment plan, it's usually expensive. It's usually not sexy, right? We can argue maybe people going for veneers or, some aesthetic changes to their smile. Maybe those are a little bit more, can fall under the impulse purchase components. But if we're talking about parts of dentistry where we're proposing treatment plans that aren't that sexy, but really are inevitable or necessary, and definitely ones that are high ticket, cost a lot of money, the best times to sell those business proposals, those treatment proposals, are earlier in the morning, earlier in the week. Because of this research, because we make choices and decisions with more energy. And literally, when they looked at these studies in marketing research over time, it dropped off to almost zero on a Friday. Literally, people were not purchasing these complex, high-ticket purchases on Fridays. They were doing most of it at the beginning of the week where their decision-making was still fueled, was still available to them. And what they noticed in impulse purchases is that increased at the end of the day or increased at the end of the week. So these are things like, feel good things that you think will bring you joy and happiness, like purchasing shoes or bags. Or when you're exhausted, you tend to choose the things that are less good for you and more of the impulse buy. The reason why this is so important for us to recognize for ourselves as practitioners, as women looking after ourselves, is this is even more reason to put yourself first, to make those choices for yourself earlier in the day, earlier in the week, earlier in your decision making, the amount of decisions that you have for yourself. So recognizing, number one, to give yourself a break. Let me just say that much. Let this research give you so much grace and self-compassion. It's not about how bad you want it. It's not about how hard you push yourself. It's not about you not loving yourself enough or you not taking care of yourself the way you think you should. It's simply about energy. And when we recognize that, we realize, oh my gosh, I've been so hard on myself, but really I've just been putting other people first, thinking I would have the reserve to continue taking care of myself at the end of the day. But now we can have a deeper understanding of human psyche and human psychology and realize it's not about you not loving yourself enough. You're just exhausted. You're just depleted. You have literal decision fatigue. And I know we've all experienced that. When you get to the end of the day and your spouse says, what do you want for dinner? You're like, I can't make one more decision today. You choose, right? So knowing this, we get to realize the importance of putting yourself first. The importance of using those energy packets for yourself first. This can look very strategic, like meal planning, for example. This has been a game changer in my life. I make my meal planning on a Sunday night when I'm still feeling good and fueled and rested from the weekend. And I make a plan for the whole week, for my dinners, for the entire week. And I make the grocery lists for the entire week so that my nanny can go and purchase the food that I need to have in the house. All my decision making is made while I'm fresh around how I'm going to fuel myself. I look at my calendar and I literally book my time slots for yoga and going to the gym. I've made those decisions to take care of myself first. In the morning, this is why morning work is so important, taking the time for yourself. I meditate first thing in the morning because that's what I need for my mental health and wellness. It used to be the opposite. I used to get up, shower, go to work, and serve people first. Now I start my mornings later, recognizing, okay, I need those early morning hours to take care of me first. Notice that the decision-making becomes easier when you put yourself first, stretching your body, putting in those practices of putting yourself first, and notice how important it becomes. But I also want to mention the very important component of rest. I know there was a time in my life, decades, where I pushed myself as hard on the weekends as I did during the week. I had so much insecurity around not having spent enough time with my family or not taking care of the house or just, really being on a treadmill of go, go, go and feeling the need to accomplish all the time and be productive all the time. And that really dripped over onto my weekends. My weekend to-do list was completely unreasonable, unattainable. And I pushed myself as hard on the weekends as I did during the week. And guess what that meant? I was still depleted on Sunday night. So this study really enforces the need to take time out to re-energize at different points during the week. And I'm arguing different points during the day. So I have said this over and over again. If you are not honoring yourself with a lunch break, if this is the one thing you change in your life, it will blow your mind how much better you will feel. if you just honor yourself and take a decent lunch break every day at work. I don't know how we got to this culture in dentistry of just pushing through lunch or working through lunch. But honestly, the most important thing that I did during practice was honor that lunch break and take time for me. Why? Because it refuels those energy packets again for you for the rest of the day. You get some true rest, not on your cell phone rest, not checking emails rest, not even learning more on a business podcast rest. I mean, literally resting. And you can almost imagine that filling up of those energy, those decision-making packets, because let's be real. You are making millions of decisions during the day, and especially my business owners who are listening right now. The dentistry is the least of your decision-making during the day. That becomes easy. It's the business decisions that become so overwhelming, and you don't even realize how many you're making in a day. Any 1 hour, any 1 minute, we're making decisions about our patients. We're making decisions about phone calls coming in. We're making decisions about marketing. It's insane how many decisions you're making. So almost imagine that depletion happening all morning and the necessity of refueling energetically at lunch. And I wonder what that looks like for you. And then the importance of taking that time every week. How important it is to give ourselves that time and space and not keep running on that high-speed treadmill throughout the weekend, making excuses for why we still need to serve other people, take care of other people, family, friends, make their house extra special for the people coming over or extra clean, or putting in so much additional effort into our families. Remember, they just want you. They don't need you to make it perfect. It's also the reason why I've created the Empower Her Retreat. So the Empower Her Retreat, it's happening this April 10th through the 13th. I'm mentioning it on every podcast leading up to that time because I want you to have the opportunity to be there. It's a very small group of women, only women dentists. We're meeting in the mountains in Appalachia in North Carolina. The whole purpose is to give you that rest and recovery from an intentional space, and then creating goals from a place of full reserve. So imagine we do exactly what we were just talking about today, give you the rest and recovery and healing that you need. And we do through somatics, workshops, hypnotic healing, subconscious reprogramming, all those parts of you that have been wounded and hurt and exhausted from the work that you do in dentistry, holding it all together all the time, giving so much of yourself. So first we do that, resting your body, being taken care of in this luxury home. Don't worry, I take care of everything. You don't even have to think, you just show up and the rest is up. I'll take care of you. And then we find from that newly found energetic resource, we put into place some strategy, some goals, some intentions of taking care of you so that you can continue to do the work you do, so that you can continue to take care of others, but really remembering the importance of putting yourself first. There's science behind this. You know, it's gone too long that you've been beating yourself up, telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not trying hard enough, you're not willing it hard enough. The truth is, you're just drained. You're just exhausted. And you deserve to put yourself first. It's actually a strategic action, putting yourself first so that you can serve others in a greater way, so that you can be there longer for your children, for the people in your life who really matter. This burnout pattern is not sustainable. It's just not. But we also don't need to beat ourselves up because of it. You get to give yourself enormous compassion and grace, recognizing that actually taking care of yourself is being responsible. It's actually the greatest responsibility that we have, because then we're not seeking it from people outside of ourselves. We're not seeking being taken care of from our patients, from our team, from our children. So To find out more about the Empower Her Retreat, go to empowerherretreat.org or check the link in the show notes. And let this episode be the one you needed to hear today. If you needed evidence, scientific support for taking care of yourself first, let this be the episode that gave it to you. I'm not kidding here. This is not just postulating. This is truth. You deserve to take care of yourself, yes. But now you know the importance of it, of why putting yourself first is so critical. Because when you feel good, that is when you can make good decisions. That is when you can make decisions from a place of intellect, creativity, and love. Most important component, making it from a place of love and learning how to love yourself through the process. Well, thank you, my friend. Until next time, bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.